What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. Duga. Excuse me, coming at y'all with another episode of Dropping Dimes with Mr. Duga. And today I'm going to continue my division by division NFL preview and prediction. Right now we're going to take a look at the AFC North. I'm going to give my thoughts on each team in the division. And at the end of the video, I'm going to pick my winner. Before I get into this video, for everyone, if you want to give me a follow on my social media platforms, I'm going to have all that information down in the description box. May not always get a chance to respond to questions and comments on these videos, so feel free to DM me. Whenever I get a chance to, I'll get back at you. Come holler at your boy. Also, if you're a Madden player on Xbox One, I'll have my Xbox One gamer tag in the description box also. And last but not least, man, y'all tune in to Big Time Sports Talk. I'm a co-host on there with host Mike the Bandit. 10 a.m. Central to 12 p.m. Central. Y'all download 103.3 the GOAT app. And come listen to your boy on the radio every Sunday, yo. Now we're gonna take a look at the AFC North, yo. First we're gonna look at what happened last season. With me being an LSU fan as well. Jambalaya Joe and Jamar Chase did their thing again last year. Slow start for the Bengals, but they rallied off, beat Baltimore at the end to claim the division outright. It then beat them again, in the playoffs. Went to Buffalo, knocked them off, and basically it was nearly a pushing Mahomes out of bounds from facing my Eagles in the Super Bowl, it seems like. So Cincinnati won the division last year. Baltimore, after a really good start, and then Lamar Jackson gets injured. Okay, we could say, to me, the guy was injured. Some people gonna say he wasn't injured. It was the contract situation. Nevertheless, he ain't played. They still made the playoffs with Tyler Huntley, and it was very competitive. And probably was a fluke type of ball getting knocked out of Huntley's hand, ran the other way by Hubbard away from probably putting off a huge upset. And then Cleveland last year kind of took a step back. They got Deshaun Watson, who missed the first 10 or 11 games. Came back, wasn't quite himself, looked a little rusty, a little out of sorts. So Cleveland, though they were a decent team, was not a playoff team last year. And of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers, another team. This whole division was decent last year. They went to the transition with Kenny Pickett. Ben Roethlisberger retired their first year without him, since 2002, since 2003. They started off with Mitch Trubisky. Obviously, that didn't go well. Trubisky is not that guy. And Kenny Pickett went out there and showed some flashes, had some good moments. And they nearly made the playoffs. If the Jets could have somehow knocked off the Dolphins with, who was it, Joe Flacco out there, you would have seen Pittsburgh in the playoffs. Mike Tomlin is just a model of consistency. And I'm looking forward to this year. We're going to start off with last place to first place. Let's start off, with Cleveland. Coming into this year, they add, Zadarius Smith, to bolster up that pass rush. They lose Kareem Hunt, who was a big part of that 1-2 battle with Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb, the offense to me begins and starts with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is that guy, man. I mean, I seen him the other day squatting. It seemed like 1,200 pounds, it looked like. He's a bulldozing guy. He's durable. I mean, he's one of the best backs in the league. They got a really good offensive line. Their offensive line is really, really solid. I feel like Deshaun Watson will be much better this year. With a year under his belt where everything that, whether y'all want to say he did it or not, that's really none of my business. That's all behind him for whatever it is worth, And, you expect him to be a lot better this year, especially with a guy like, Amari Cooper, with them probably getting their gel together. You expect Cleveland to be a little better. Defensively, though, you got Myles Garrett, who is one of the best defensive players, not just pass rushers, but defensive players in the league, period, considering all positions. You got him over there rushing the passer. But after that, man, they do leave a lot to be desired besides him. Denzel Ward is a really nice corner as well, but to me, they leave a lot to be desired defensively. But offensively, running the ball and play action, taking your shots with Deshaun Watson, to me is the key for them. Next is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin is amazing. I feel like he don't get enough credit. I mean, that guy never had a losing season. He's had teams that were expected to lose, including this team last year, and they never lost. Coming back with Kenny Pickett in year 2, a lot of quarterbacks, take a big jump from year 1 to year 2. So we're going to see how Kenny Pickett does. They got Najee Harris over there, who's a really, really big-time talented running back. And a guy that I think is due for a breakout year I liked him a lot in college, is George Pickens. He's making incredible catches already in training camp. Made some, last season. I think that's a guy that's ready to have a breakout type of year. And one thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers as well, I don't know who their wide receiver coach is. I don't know if he's been there for years. Pittsburgh is the one team in the NFL that absolutely develops their wide receivers. Every time they get a wide receiver or draft, when he ends up being a stud. So, Pittsburgh going to have a nice passing attack. Defensively, TJ Watt is that dude. Getting after. He got injured last year, but when he's out there, he gets after the quarterback consistently. Casey Hayward, a veteran guy on that D-line, still making plays. And then in the secondary, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's probably the best ball hawking safety in the NFL, or at least in that conversation. So I look for Pittsburgh to be better this year. I look for them to have a solid run game. I look for Kenny Pickett to take a little bit of a leap, and I think George Pickens is going to turn himself to a really good wide receiver this year. Next, looking at the Baltimore Ravens, they got that drama with the Lamar Jackson contract situation. They got that sold up and behind them. Lamar, they tried to finally add Lamar some weapons. Odell Beckham Jr. Took the year off after the ACL. You would think he'll be fresh and ready to go. They drafted Zay Flowers, who's a nice explosive wide receiver. They get Rashad Bateman back, who made some nice plays last year when he was out there and healthy. They're getting him back. And of course, Mark Andrews, who's one of the most consistent tight ends and better tight ends in this league. So Lamar, a lot going to be on Lamar to be able to throw the football. If Lamar could throw the football consistently, I think Baltimore going to be all right in the running game with Dobbins and all. And their running backs are pretty interchangeable over there, with Lamar getting a lot of boasts to running the ball as well. Then you look defensively, that secondary, led by Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton, a guy that I actually wanted the Eagles to draft last year. Baltimore, one thing about them, Roquan Smith, who's one of the best defensive players in the whole league in the middle of that defense. One thing about Baltimore, man, that they always going to play solid defense. Like, starting back with 2000, they going to always play solid, hard-nosed defense. So that's one thing you can bank on when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. And finally, looking at the Cincinnati Bengals, man, my guy Jambalaya Joe Burrow is unfortunately injured right now. Had a unfortunate calf injury. Thankfully, that's all it was. There was some thought that there could have possibly even been an Achilles or something like that. But he's gonna. It sounds like he's not gonna be ready for Week 1, and that's a big deal. They do keep Joe Mixon back there in the backfield. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, those guys are one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. They're adding to their offensive line. Let's see if it actually works out. At least they're trying to bolster it up. And defensively, Trey Hendrickson is one of the most underrated defensive players in the league, getting after the quarterback. And, they did lose Jesse Bates, who was a big part of that secondary. And one thing about Cincinnati, which I find is so interesting, man, they got a really good defensive coordinator, which I'm on the record saying I'm shocked that Arizona chose Jonathan Gannon instead of their coordinator, because he does so well with so little personnel on that defense. And they don't really have players you really know about, but they're always putting a competitive product out there defensively. They give Mahomes problems, man. They do almost every time they see him. As far as my division winner, I'm gonna be honest, man. I'm concerned about that Jambalaya Joe Burrow injury. We know he's gonna come back at some point, but will he be able to be the same? Honestly, I'm going to go to a little bit of upset. I think Baltimore is going to win the AFC North this year. With Lamar Jackson coming back fresh, the contract behind him, healthy, with the receiving weapons he has now, with them going to always play hard-nosed defense. They could have won the division last year if he didn't get injured. If he stays healthy, I think the Baltimore Ravens win the AFC North this year. But with that being said, that's all I got for y'all today. Appreciate y'all checking out the video. Hit the like button for your boy. Give me a subscribe. I have Philadelphia Eagles, NFL, and content on my other teams throughout the year. Y'all have a blessed one. Fly, Eagles, fly.